welcome to another episode of Inspirational Stories. Thank you for joining me. So, today I have a special guest with me. Um, firstly, I'm going to let my guest introduce herself. And today we're going to talk about the journey of peace, women finding peace. So I'm going to introduce my special guest, Judy. Hi, Judy. Welcome to today's podcast.
Hi, Kavita. You know what it is. It's just an honor to be here and support Reach for the Stars, and I'm quite humbled that you wanted to hear my voice. So thank you for the invitation. Appreciate
Thank
that.
you. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for supporting the podcast. We have various topics that we deliver on this podcast. So I just want to appreciate your time and your effort for making it in today. So,
Yeah.
Judy, tell us a little bit about who you are and kind of the journey of discussion for today.
Mm. So I'm Judy, and I'm the founder, director of Therawake, which is a therapeutic and development company. I'm a drama therapist by trade and a clinical supervisor and a creative facilitator as well. Um, and I think, amongst lots of other things, but I don't want to, that will come organically, kind of the different experiences that I've had creatively as well. Um, but I wanted to talk about the pressures that women and girls have to go through as part of our development to develop into this being that society, family, friends want us to be. And that whole journey, I suppose being very, very young as a teenager, not even as a teenager, let's go back further, being 5 years old and having the label of an auntie. And
Yeah.
now at 45 years old, being able to say how abusive that was, to put that responsibility and that adultification on a 5-year-old. Um, and it wasn't until I looked at a picture of myself the other day when I was 5 years old and I looked at her and she looked exhausted. She wasn't like, in her element to play. She had to play with the responsibility that you're an auntie now. You have to make a decision based on you're the eldest and you're setting an example. So that's me as an auntie, but I suppose I'm also speaking to those that are elders in their family. They might be like the firstborn sister, like the eldest sibling. So all of a sudden there's another sibling that's been born, and then all of a sudden that playtime has been cut because whatever you do, you have a responsibility to your brother or sister. So that's where I'll start.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Judy, there's lots to unpack there.
Yeah.
You said some really, really interesting stuff, and I think we could go on forever just on one subject area.
Yeah.
But interestingly, that your background has that put you in a position to be able to kind of look more inwards at yourself in a more kind of analytical way, I guess, as opposed to kind of just being going through life and just kind of going with the moments. Do you think that your profession has put you in a place where you've started to think about yourself and peace?
I love that question, and I love how insightful you are to kind of jump through the hoops as to where I've arrived now, today in the present, on the 1st of May 2025 on this podcast, speaking, I suppose, to that 5-year-old. So that professional speaking into her. I think the opposite. I think what I've done, I've transcended through my life, thinking about others first, having that innate compassion, empathy, wanting to rescue. This is all unconscious stuff, wanting to change, wanting to fix. People being I'm the go-to person. Oh, she'll fix it, she'll sort it, she'll hold it. And then continuously going through that. And then having an awakening. So my company called Therawake, that name is very personal to me because when it came into fruition, I awakened. And for the first time, I started
Mm.
to put myself first, which felt very scary. And it felt very almost like, "Oh my gosh, are you allowed to do this as a woman? You're meant to be the caregiver. You're meant to put everybody else's needs first." No, actually, I don't, because I've neglected myself, and that's when I turned the lens, I really became more attuned to my body, and I think that's around the time I met you physically in person at a yoga retreat, right? And
Right.
I was just trying to connect, and I was going through a very traumatic time. But through that trauma, I had to look at the the somatic damage that had happened to my body because of the neglect. So I
Mm,
would push through the pain. If I had a headache, I would push through the headache. If I wanted to take a
mm.
sick day off work, I never would. I would never have. She's always at work. She's always there. She's always on time. I was ill. Sometimes I was ill, but I would push through.
Yes.
Um, and that
Do you
came at a
think that's
cost.
a generational thing though? That kind of like, you remember when we were younger, like I don't ever remember having time off like from school. Like my mum would just send me, it don't matter. Like if you can walk and talk, you're going, not like kind of today, right? So do you
Yeah,
think that
you're
that's
right.
generational?
You're right. You generationally, there's been changes now, and that's why I always listen to young people. Like young people have been my teachers. Like I worked with young people for like over 20 years, whether it be in youth justice, whether it be in education, whether it be in youth services. I've always had a youthful spirit because they've been my teachers. So I've wanted to learn, how do they see the world? And how do they
Absolutely.
navigate the world? And I know that the generation under me, if they get a job description, they are doing the job description and they are going home. And they'll tell me, I don't know why your generation are doing over and above. Is it in your contract? So why are you doing it? And I'm like, it's so simple, but it's like, because I've taught them of what it means to not have the self care.
Yes.
Now they are definitely boundaried with the self-care, but I think that's another conversation because the boundaries might be so rigid for them that they haven't actually had the opportunity to be free and to like just
Yeah,
chill. Yeah.
absolutely. Because I guess, just before we kind of come on to that, I just wanted to touch on kind of how it works where, because we met at a yoga retreat, as you mentioned, and it was a women of color yoga retreat.
Yes.
And I think that what you spoke about, and when I said generational, I think that does come from cultural differences and how we live our lives in a society that we've had to almost integrate with, and we lived two different lives. When we went home, we were like dealing with one set of
Yes.
cultural makeups, and then when we're out and about in society, we've had to adjust. And I think that possibly has had a lot to do with the way that we conduct ourselves as women of color. So I think that was really interesting. But yeah, what you're saying about young
Yeah.
people, I think it's they are our teachers, and it's very interesting that you touch upon that. What is it about that journey of peace within you that you have had to be transparent about? You mentioned you've had to, is it about maybe honesty with yourself? And which
Yes.
was frightening? Or, yeah, tell me a little
Yes.
bit more about that realism.
Yeah. That realism and that reality check. Yeah. So I remember during the COVID, just after the lockdown, so I had to really adjust to remote working full time, which that was not what I was doing before. And I remember that I started to get a knee injury that was developing. And in the lockdown, I walked 5 miles a day.
Oh, wow. Oh, you really made use of that lockdown.
I made use of that time. I did 5 miles a day. I kept up my fitness. I wasn't one of those people that was like, "Oh my gosh, ballooned." I did the complete opposite. I really cooked fresh. I was watching lots of YouTube videos and recipes. I was really in there with the, different cuisines that I could create and looking
Wow,
after
you go,
myself.
girl. You made use of that
Listen, I
lockdown.
made use of that. But then that could have been an avoidance to other things because
Hmm,
even though one would think that I was attuned with my body, I actually wasn't.
interesting.
So when I started to go back to work, physically go back and come off the screen, I noticed I had a limp, and that limp was getting worse. And to the point where I would go down the stairs and I had to hold the banister. I would be walking and I'd feel like at any moment my knees are going to give in and fall. I had had a couple of falls. Um, So I went to the GP, they did an X-ray and they said, "Oh, what's happened here? Like your knee has degenerated by a good 10 years. Like what's going
Wow.
on?" So obviously they, as NHS does, they suggested tablets, medication and stuff.
Yes.
And my favorite place to travel to in Europe is Cyprus. For me, that's like the nearest experience to the Caribbean I'm going to get and not get too far away.
Oh, nice.
I love something about Cyprus. I
Yes.
love Cyprus. So I did a solo trip to Cyprus, and near my hotel there was a Buddhist kind of place, but they did one-to-one yoga and they did like Thai massage and all the good stuff that I like. I was like, oh, and I went to their website and I saw the founder had healed himself because I think he had a massive accident and he blew up because they gave him lots of medication. And he was kind of told that he won't be able to walk again and he has to use a stick and all of that. And he attended one yoga class and it changed his life.
Wow. So when you mean healed himself through holistic kind of
Totally.
yoga, meditation.
Yeah.
So
Yoga, meditation, breath work,
breath
and
work.
slowing down.
Yes. Okay.
So for him, his story was about not just going to yoga and that's it, but holding those postures for a long period of time.
Right.
And as he did that, things started to open up energetically. And it
That
was very painful to begin with. And then the more he pushed, the more he opened, the more his body did things that the medics said his body could never
could
do.
never do. Yes,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Helped his
Is
gut,
that
his
is that also
kidney.
a mind thing as well? Because, we're so like, if we're injured, we do go to like traditional sort of like the NHS and like they will tell us you can't do this or you might never be able to do that again. And is it a case of having to readjust the way we think, well, actually, you might have got it wrong here. Can I
Mm,
can I think of following, like there's these alkaline diets, taking sea moss,
mhm,
lots of things that Dr. Zebi has told us, and alternative ways and proven ways of healing ourselves.
yeah,
Is it a
yeah.
question of trusting and believing and changing our mindset for all the years we've been conditioned to think a certain way?
100%. And I think it's about listening to what my body needs.
Yeah,
So your body might need the alkaline, my body might need oxygen. So our
interesting.
makeup and the damage that, especially the society in the West, and how I respond to stress and how you respond to stress, in a physical form is very different. We hold it in different places. So for him, he had to realize, okay, where is this happening? So anyway, his story is fascinating. He does one to one, like a yoga masterclass. So Judy being Judy, I was like, why not? So let me just go and visit this strange German man in a Buddhist room by myself, and let's stretch together. So I walked in, and as soon as I walked in, and he looked at me, he said, "A, I can see exactly what's wrong. Your posture's off," and he said, "Your body's stressed."
Ooh.
And I just walked in,
Just
and I
no
said, "What?"
conversation, just by visual. You
The
didn't have any
energy.
conversations beforehand or anything like that?
No, no. I just walked in, and he saw me obviously walking up through the window.
Yes.
And I said, "Wow, okay." But at that point, I was in denial that I was stressed. I was like, "No, I'm fine. Look, I walk 5 miles a day. I'm eating well. I'm working remote. I'm saving money. So I was feeling myself. And he said, That's all he said, So we started, and at first, like the first 5 minutes, I thought, "Oh, this is easy. This is not," because I thought it was going to be like some big crab and some. And he was like,
That's right.
he's just assessing to see how far I can go. And there were very subtle movements with my leg, my toe, my feet, my knees. And then I felt a very sharp pain. It was a very simple movement. And he goes, "There it is." So we're going to hold that. We're going to breathe
Mm.
into that. We're going to breathe. And literally after that hour, I got up and I walked away. And he said, "You're walking how you should be walking now."
No way.
He said, "You're going to see the difference." I was like, literally,
Yes.
the knee pain was gone.
Wow.
He said, I filmed it. So he said, just keep these subtle movements and just hold them for long. And he said, don't push yourself back into fitness. Just take your time. And
Right.
when your body's strong enough, then you can go back to like your spin class and your weights and stuff like that. And I listened to him, and he checked in on me when I came back to the UK.
Oh,
And
interesting.
I went back to the GP and they said, "What have you done?" I said, "I just did a bit of yoga
Wow.
and listened to my body."
Yes. Yeah.
And now I'm back at the gym. Now I'm doing weights. Now I am, I'm still mindful of my knee, that particular knee, and I wrap it up and the rest of it. But that sense of peace, like when I felt like my knee was constantly going out and feeling like, am I going to fall down and feeling like an 80-year-old? The mind, like you said, is so powerful. So I was going out now, becoming an anxious person, which anxiety in me were never a thing, but
Right.
it was a thing now.
Yes.
And just after that simple but deep intervention, I could run, I could
Wow.
walk, I can walk down the banister. I don't need to hold the banisters and come up and down the stairs. Like I'm free. So there was
Yes.
something about freedom,
Yeah.
and that's how my journey started into peace.
Interesting. And that's, I think where our bodies are in a position of, they kind of allow us to move forward in the world on a level of, physicality. And
Mhm.
when we are unable to use certain parts of our body, that kind of has a detrimental effect on our mind, because we never ever think that we're never going to lose parts of feelings in our body until it happens. And
Exactly.
why is it that that has to happen sometimes for us to readdress where we're at in life and
Yeah,
what we want out of life? And
yeah,
like you said, this is where your journey actually begins. And I guess what I want to put to you, Judy, is why do we have to wait for that time? Why is it we can't be taught that in school, that journey of peace, like in our whole lives, exists and we don't have to wait for
mm,
certain poignant revelations or things to go wrong for us to address those aspects of our life? Why is that?
yeah. I mean, this is why I do what I do, and this is why, I've been a therapist for over 20 years, because you get out of the therapy what you put in, but also what the therapist is putting into themselves. So I am continuously building, growing alongside. And the best metaphor I can give you is the best training instructors in classes are the ones that demonstrate with me and I watch their technique. They're not the ones that say, right, they do it a few times and they say, right, you get on with it. They're actually
Yes.
they're alongside me, they're alongside the class. So every time I see them, I see their technique, I see the discipline, I see the technicalities, because it's not just, oh, I can survive this body pump class, but there are technicalities that you follow.
Right.
It's not about how heavy you lift, it's about the technique
Yeah.
to avoid the injury. So I think I can use that metaphor in terms of therapy. So I'm a very good therapist because I have to go back into therapy in and out myself. And therapy can be conventional therapy for me, but also the gym is therapy for me.
Mm,
Paying attention to my body, which holds so much trauma,
yeah.
so much stories. And it's when I stopped to turn the lens around and say, okay, you're doing all this cerebral stuff, you're doing all this psychological stuff, great stuff, Judy. Hey, you've neglected all of that from the neck downwards.
Mm,
And the moment I started to do that and open up, there's consequences, because then people, just like you have, like, your kidney flushes out the toxins, right?
yes.
You start to flush out the toxins in your life.
Right. And does that open up and unearth things that might be buried, and perhaps you may not want to revisit them, but forces you to revisit at times to be able to overcome those parts of your life?
I think the first step is acknowledging they're there. We have a choice if we want to engage in it or not. As long as we can acknowledge and verify, you are there, I am here, how are we gonna do this dance?
Interesting. Talking to your 5-year-old self
Mhm.
now, how would you cultivate? Because obviously 5-year-olds come in all shapes and sizes, different levels of understanding.
Yes.
that young innocent child, how would you support that child looking back at yourself? What would you be installing in that the mind of that youngster there?
Yeah. Well, here she is. She's here. There she is.
Oh, okay. So we can see a picture. Beautiful, beautiful picture of
Yeah.
you.
So that's when she turned into an auntie at 5. So what I would say to her, and she's exhausted. I can see she's exhausted now. Little madam. But what I would say to her is, you have every right to dream big. You have every right to play. You deserve to be protected and safeguarded. And you do not need to be responsible for anybody but yourself. So
Oh,
go
yeah,
play, go dare to dream, and be whoever you want to be in your
powerful,
imagination. Yeah, that's what
beautiful.
I would tell her. That's what I would tell her.
That's beautiful.
Mhm.
And I think it takes a lot of courage to look back and readdress certain aspects of your life because quite often, I don't know if you would agree as a therapist, that we just kind of go through life and we just, because life is full of challenges and we're constantly knocking one down and then another comes up and then we're knocking that. So to go back and start revisiting areas of our lives that we've already passed can be uh, very traumatic, and that realism that we spoke about
Yeah,
requires a lot of energy.
yeah,
And yeah, I suppose you have to be in a particular mindset
yeah,
to want to actually do that in order to go back to go forward.
yeah, absolutely. Spot on. You need to be in your season. When clients come to me, I ask them, "Are you ready? Are you ready?" 'Cause if you're not ready, I can give you some resources to prepare yourself to be ready. Maybe you can come back in 6 months' time or a year or whatever, but be ready, because even though you're saying it's hard to go back to things that have passed, it hasn't passed. It's in the psyche,
Mm.
the I suppose the frontal lobe, the hypothalamus keeps it. So the
Right.
hypothalamus is the part of the brain that controls the functions that we are not conscious of. So our breathing, whether we want to go to the toilet or not, whether we're dreaming or not, the movements in our bodies, just things simply that just happened. If I'm going to roll my eyes or not, the hypothalamus knows about it before I do, right?
Yes.
So when the flashbacks come back, when the children are presenting in behaviors, or they're coming with narratives or disclosures that, oh my gosh, that happened to me, it's never left, it's never passed. It's just been suppressed. So all we're doing is we're just like going into this room filled with locked boxes, and we're just gently unlocking the box just to see how active they are. And the more active they are, then we need to maybe de-escalate so we're not so associated with them. Give some compassion, um, give some empathy, give some love, but most importantly, give that forgiveness to self.
Oh, I like that. I like that analogy of going in and unlocking each box just to
Mhm.
see where we're at, because that then allows us to do this in stages as opposed to like doing this as one big mammoth task.
Mhm.
I like that. That's pretty powerful.
Mhm.
Interesting. And Judy, who are your clients? I mean, where can
Mhm.
people find you? Are you on social media? Is it corporate people? Is it just people like myself? Is it youngsters? Who are they and how do we find you?
Yeah. So my website is Therawake. So it's simply www.therawake.co.uk. There is a directory of therapists on there, but obviously I'm the main therapist that you'll see. And my client group ranges from adults, couples, children, adolescents, um, short-term therapy, long-term therapy, whether people want drama therapy. And they're mostly remote sessions, whether they want drama therapy, talking psychotherapy, or if they want EMDR, which is a very specific therapy that kind of deals with trauma. So it's eye movement, um, dissociation. So you're trying to dissociate from the trauma that have come before, and you start to regulate that trauma. So instead of that trauma activating you, you're now learning how to reprocess. So the R is the reprocessing.
So
So just
managing, managing,
managing and
managing.
just seeing that actually, if there was a perpetrator that's a big monster in your head, as you go through the therapy, you start to they start to shrink, and then you start to grow and you realize how pathetic they are.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting.
How small
Yeah.
you are.
Yes.
Like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
You know, you shift so then you can move on.
So you
Uh,
shift your perspective. So then
yes,
rather than that becoming the perpetrator becoming the humongous, huge cloud monster, whatever you want to call it, that then
yes,
becomes smaller and smaller, and you teach how to overcome or manage those
yes,
feelings on a daily basis. That's amazing. Thank you
yes,
so, so much. This has
yes.
been really interesting.
It's one last thing.
Yes.
September, at the end of I think it's September, the weekend, the 19th to the 21st. Therawake, in conjunction with another organization called Little Creations, which is run by a beautiful woman called Patricia. We are putting on our second retreat. So it's called the Rewire Retreat. And the theme this year is Dare to Love.
Oh,
Dare
that
to Love.
sounds
So there'll be
powerful.
more information uploaded on the website in due course.
Yes.
So yeah. So
Thank
people
you. I
just
mean, I need to invite you here again because there's just so much there, Judy. I mean, we could have spoken about all areas of this, and that's like 10, 15 podcasts on its own.
yeah.
But thank you for an insight into your personal journey, actually. And thank you for sharing and being transparent on where you're at and how you've come to be. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And keep reaching for the stars. You're a
Thank
natural. So thank you for having me.